What's going on? It's Horse Beef here, and today I'm bringing you another episode of a series that I'm sure a lot of you didn't even know existed because it got like 100 views. Nobody watched that shit, but it's Dream UFC matchups. And I decided I wanted to make another episode of this because I enjoyed making the first one, and I hope this one gets more traction because I feel like it's worth a little watch. But yeah, let's just get right into it, man. The first matchup that I would like to see as a fan of MMA is Corey Sandhagen versus Sean O'Malley. I feel like aside from Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen is probably the toughest matchup stylistically for Sean O'Malley. He can test him in the stand-up, and more importantly, he can mix it up and like, not necessarily match him on the feet, because I feel like Corey Sandhagen, his technique is very comparable to that of Sean O'Malley's, but on the ground I think is where Corey Sandhagen can mix things up and really give him some issues, similar to what a fight with Peter Yan would look like. But I feel like Corey Sandhagen, he's a bit rangier, you know, he can match the frame of Sean O'Malley, and ultimately I do think that he could beat Sean maybe in the later rounds or by decision, because I don't really see Sandhagen as somebody with a whole lot of stopping power. So I do think that if he's going to get it done, it would be by mixing it up and winning via decision. So yeah, that's my first matchup there. Let me know if you guys would like to see that one. I feel like it's an obvious pick at the end of the day, man. I mean, who doesn't want to see the Sandman versus Sean O'Malley? And the next one up that I would love to see is Jose Aldo versus Dominic Cruz. I mean, it's safe to say that both of these fighters are way out of their primes. I mean, arguably Jose Aldo is still kicking though, so I guess, you know, technically this is a pretty unfair matchup when you consider the trajectory of both their careers recently. I do feel like if this one is made, Jose Aldo would beat him, but it would just be such a great opportunity while Jose Aldo is still fighting in that bantamweight. And I'm not too sure if Dominic Cruz is fully retired from the sport yet, but if he was going to come back and fight one more time before retirement, it should be against a legend like Jose Aldo. I mean, two fighters who spent their primes in separate divisions. Now they're in the same division. It's the perfect opportunity. Stylistically, yeah, it's not a great one for Dominic Cruz if Jose Aldo was to go back to the leg kicks like he used to utilize and be extremely effective with. Like at one point in history, Jose Aldo was probably the best leg kicker in MMA, and then he adopted more of a boxing heavy style. So if he comes into the fight with that more boxing heavy style, then you could see Dominic Cruz maybe avoiding some of those big shots to the head and countering and potentially even winning a decision against Jose Aldo. But I believe that would require Dominic Cruz to effectively mix it up and go for takedowns. And you don't just mix it up and go for takedowns against Jose Aldo, because he has some of the best takedown defense in MMA history. I mean, seriously, even if you get the guy to the ground, it's such a tall task just to hold him down. So I do feel like if this fight was to be made, yes, Jose Aldo would probably beat him, and I would say by knockout in round 2. I would probably predict maybe even round 3. I think he would catch him and maybe punish him similarly to how Chito Vera did with the high kick. I feel like Jose Aldo would punish him for some of that Dominic Cruz head movement and make him run into something. So that's my prediction, and that's my pick for my next dream UFC matchup. And the next one up here is going to be Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland. I feel like this one is probably the most likely one to happen of all these fights in this list, but only if Sean Strickland grows a set and really starts to embody that any place, any time mentality that he likes to push out there to his followers, right? But I don't feel like he actually embodies that whatsoever. He seems to be avoiding a fight against Robert Whittaker because I know that he knows it's a very risky matchup for him. And stylistically, I believe that Robert Whittaker would be favored in that one. I think his footwork is a bit too good for Sean Strickland. Sean would have a really hard time connecting with that jab. I think he'd have a very hard time connecting with much at all against Whittaker. And honestly, I would expect Whittaker to put him away at some point, especially this evolved version of Whittaker that we've been seeing. Plus, he can mix it up. Although Sean Strickland is really nothing to scoff at when it comes to his grappling ability, because he is quite a good grappler, quite a good wrestler. So it wouldn't be an easy task for Robert Whittaker to take him down and hold him there. But even on the feet, I just feel like Robert Whittaker, he packs more of a punch in his shots. He has more stopping power. I think he can probably catch Sean Strickland with some kind of a head kick. I do feel like among all of these head kickers at middleweight, Robert Whittaker's style of throwing the 1-2 to mask the head kick and the trajectory in which he throws that high kick, I feel like it's the most likely to actually be able to connect on Sean Strickland, even though he is so good at defending against those high kicks. And I just feel like he has the advantage pretty much everywhere this fight goes, although it would be very much like Sean Strickland to prove me wrong in this one. But yeah, stylistically, I favor Robert Whittaker, and if this fight was to happen, I would pick him quite confidently. So that's my next pick for Dream Fights. And next one up, we have another middleweight matchup here, and I feel like middleweight recently, especially with the unranked fighters, I feel like the names that go under the radar, middleweight is actually a pretty interesting division right now, maybe just not within the rankings. But just outside the rankings, we have Gregory Rodriguez and Shara Bullet Magomedov. Now, this is such an interesting matchup because I feel like Shara has been relatively untested. I know he did fight Bruno Silva, who's a pretty good test for him. But at the end of the day, I feel like somebody like Gregory Rodriguez has the style, the toughness, the grit to really test Shara Bullet. And for everyone who doesn't like Shara, I feel like this is the kind of matchup that you'd want, because for me personally, I would pick RoboCop to win this one. I think he would just march forward and pressure Shara against the fence, although it would not surprise me at all if Shara was to catch Gregory with something, because Gregory is very hittable, ducks into a lot of shots, walks into a lot of shots, and we've seen him hurt on a few occasions because of that. I mean, Bruno Ferreira put him out for that exact reason. He got caught with that nasty knee up the middle that gave him like his third eye, if you remember that fight. And so I can definitely see Shara Bullet, in the event of this fight being made, finishing Gregory with something. But on the opposite side of things, I can just as likely see Gregory Rodriguez catching Shara Bullet with something, because the man has hammers in his fists and he's tough as nails, like I said. So if anyone's going to test Shara Bullet outside of these 185 rankings, for me, it's Gregory Rodriguez. And selfishly, as a fan, I know that one would produce absolute violence on both ends and would just be a treat for the eyes. So that is exactly why I want to see this fight. If you guys disagree, which I don't know why you would disagree, but let me know in the comment section below. For me, that fight would be an absolute banger. And then last but not least, I want to see Ilia Topuria fight Islam Makhachev. Now, I feel like this one is the least likely to happen of all these matchups. I mean, soon, I feel like this one is maybe a matchup for like a year or two down the line, because realistically, Sean O'Malley will probably get the shot at double champ status against Ilia before Ilia gets it against Islam. And I feel like the same for Islam getting the shot against Leon for double champ status is more likely than Topuria going up to fight Islam. And Islam is of course never going to move down to 145, because the guy is a gargantuan lightweight. The guy is huge and he's jacked, and there's just no possible way he can make 145. But Ilia can make 155. We've seen him there. Yeah, he looked undersized against Jai Herbert, but it was a short notice replacement. I feel like at some point, Ilia Topuria, if he is given enough notice to fight Islam Makhachev, he probably would put on some muscle, but he's already a pretty densely built guy. So I feel like he'd look a lot smaller than Islam in there. But similarly to how Volk did against Islam, I feel like Topuria could match him, maybe not exactly 1-for-1 in the grappling, but I feel like he can deal with the grappling. And then on the feet, I feel like I would give Topuria a bigger chance of knocking out Islam Makhachev than pretty much any lightweight in that division, like any natural lightweight, because Ilia Topuria has hammers. He's one of the nastiest boxers in the UFC. He has great defense, and like I said, he has the grappling to go along with it. So the threat of the takedown maybe won't be as great as it is with many of Islam's other opponents in the past, right? The threat of the takedown is always there, but for Ilia, I feel like he wouldn't be afraid to tie up in the grappling with Islam Makhachev. And if that fight was to become a stand-up battle, it would not surprise me to see Ilia Topuria find a big overhand or a big left hook, or even land some nice body shots. And from what I've seen, Ilia Topuria, he can switch stances, although he is more comfortable out of orthodox. So it would probably be a tougher task for him to catch Islam. But as Ilia Topuria showed against Volk, it really doesn't matter how tough you are to hit. He will find the shot, and he can find the shot. And if he is able to find that shot, then I would pick Ilia Topuria to maybe knock out Islam Makhachev. But I do have to see more from Ilia first. I do want to see him against Max Holloway in that. So my pick with this one isn't super confident, and it's not based off a whole lot of information, because we still, like I said, do need to see a lot more out of Ilia Topuria first. But if this fight was to happen, it would be sort of a pick-em for me. But ultimately, I would personally lean towards Ilia Topuria to win this fight at some point by knockout. I feel like his skill level is among the highest in the UFC, but then again, so is Islam Makhachev's. But my prediction as of right now would still be Ilia Topuria to take him out. And that does conclude my 5 dream UFC matchups for this episode. Now, of course, as I said at the beginning of the video, no one really watched my first episode. So I would appreciate if you gave me your feedback in the comments if you really do enjoy this, because I'll continue to make these just to add some variety to the channel, so it's not all tier lists and top 15s and all that. But for some variety, as long as like one or two of you enjoy watching these, I will still make them, because ultimately I do enjoy making these videos and theorizing about these particular matchups that could potentially happen at some point in history. So anyway, guys, I do appreciate you watching like always. And as I said, please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you on the next one.